That's kind of what we need, don't we? Are we now going to like reinvent? That's kind of a code smell, but anyway. You need to make sure that all operating system sources, that sounds like such a mess to do on your own. All of these things are great and good work here, interesting. However, I'm working on my what's new blog post for PHP 8.6, and there's this one feature that's coming up, the polling API, that I feel like it might be worth reading through it together, because this is one of the things that will probably cause some people to be a little bit confused. So if I can shed a little bit of light on this here. So let's start reading and we'll figure it out on the way. So I/O polling is a mechanism that allows a program to efficiently monitor multiple I/O resources like network sockets, pipe files, to do that simultaneously and be notified when any of them are ready for reading, writing, or have encountered an error condition. Instead of checking each resource repeatedly or blocking on a single resource, polling lets you wait for events on many resources at once. Think of it like a receptionist monitoring multiple phone lines. Rather than picking up each phone individually to check if something is calling, the receptionist can see at a glance which lines have incoming calls and handle them as needed. And so there are a couple of common polling mechanisms. And the current situation in PHP is that PHP provides stream select for I/O multiplexing, which is based on the select system call. And this approach has several limitations: limited scalability, poor performance, no access to modern mechanisms, no advanced features, and no internal polling API. The primary motivation for this RFC is to provide a unified internal polling API that PHP core and extensions can use. That's already important, because I feel like when people read this RFC, some people might say, oh, we're getting async PHP and stuff like that. The primary use case here is for internal development. You can build on top of that, but I actually don't know whether there is already some userland stuff in place to hook into this. But we'll discover in the RFC together. Currently, there are several areas in PHP that would benefit from better polling capabilities, like signal handling in Zen thread safe mode, PHP FPM improvements, interesting timer support, and extension needs like sockets, curl, and others can use a standardized polling interface. So again, pretty low-level stuff we're talking about here. Keep that in mind. By creating this internal API, we establish a foundation that PHP's internals can rely on for efficient I/O operations without depending on external libraries like libuv or libevent. And this is pretty important. Libuv is the one that's used by Node, as far as I remember, or maybe they switched to libevent. I'm not sure, but this is one of these is the one that that Node uses for all its async capabilities. So these are pretty established libraries, and something I'm a pretty bit worried about actually, but we'll come to it in a second. There's a second benefit, a Userspace API. Okay, so the RFC does address it. Once we have a robust internal API, exposing it to Userspace provides significant benefits. Could serve as a stream select replacement, which is used by a couple of these like reactive frameworks like React. Oh, that's the second point. Okay, async framework support like AMP, React, and Revolt can use a single efficient backend instead of maintaining multiple backend implementations. That's a good thing. And high performance applications, users can build servers, manage message queues, or WebSocket servers, get access to platform specific optimizations. Also good. And lower barrier to entry, no need to install external extensions for basic async I/O. So the thing this RFC is doing isn't making PHP more async than it was before, but it is providing a layer that we can build upon in the future, and that's important. This RFC is very good, very interesting, but it's not going to change anything short term. So yeah. This Userspace API is designed to be minimal and focused. It provides polling capabilities, not a complete event loop, because libraries like AMP and React build those themselves. Applications that need full event loop abstractions with timer signals and child process management can use libraries. It's like I'm I haven't read this before, like AMP or React, which can then utilize this API as their polling backend. So why not bundle libuv or libevent? And this is what I'm curious about as well, because these are very well established libraries. Actually, let me check for a second. What is libevent used for? Okay, so Chromium uses it, memcached, a couple of others, and then libuv here. I guess this one is still used by Node, right? Yeah. Primarily designed for use in Node.js, but also other software projects. Okay. Okay, so why not use one of these two libraries that are already used in very large software projects? And that's kind of the question I have as well, because I know a couple of years ago, internals were talking about bundling, I think it was libuv back then, so that we have this and can build on top of that. Now it seems like we're doing something different. So let's read. A common question is why not make XUV or X event built-in extensions? There are several reasons. So they are already extensions, by the way, XUV and X event. The problem is with extensions, they are optional, right? So you cannot really build user-length implementations like React or AMP on top of them. It's not very user-friendly because you basically force your projects to have these extensions themselves as well. Okay, so why not one of these two? Just bundle them. Dependencies. Both are external libraries which cannot be enabled by default unless bundled. Yes, but that's kind of, I don't think that's an argument against. That's kind of the question. Why not do that? Yeah, so not really an argument. A bloat. libuv in particular is quite large and includes many features beyond basic polling, which that's kind of what we need, don't we? Are we now going to like reinvent everything that libuv has invented? I'm sorry, I'm already going into rant mode here, but like if we say that we want async PHP, most people are thinking about Node when they say that. Because that is like the async example in web space that most people are used to besides PHP. So why not use the library that Node already has, and then start from that? Like, I think the many features are something that PHP wants as well, doesn't it? And okay, so overhead for many internal use cases like signal handling in send-thread safety mode, we need minimal overhead. Okay, fair. But rather an edge case, no, it already works today. So control, having the implementation in PHP core gives us full control over the API and behavior. Like, I'm not criticizing this. I get it. I mean, I'm someone who also built a framework because of not exactly this reason, but I get it. Like, reinventing stuff is also fun. But for PHP, I mean, we've been asking for async PHP, like proper async, just async wait or other ways, because I know that's a big discussion as well. But we want, like, user-land developers want async functionality just built into PHP. I don't really see why we are now going to add like just polling, a new polling API to make a part of async processing, to make a part of async programming easier, and then missing out on all the other stuff. I mean, just bundle libuv, I would say, but okay, not happening. And then integration. A native implementation integrates better with PHP's existing stream infrastructure. That's a good point. That that makes sense. So the polling API provide exactly what we need. I don't agree with that. No, like exactly who's we here? What we need, PHP community, I would say, is just proper async. And yeah, okay. Efficient cross-platform polling without the complexity of a full event loop library. So, by the way, if you don't know what like things like React PHP or PHP, if you don't know what these are libraries that already bring async functionality into PHP. implemented in userland, and then wrapping, well, I believe it's all stream select under the hood, because it's the only thing we have, as the RFC mentioned as well, but maybe I'm like, no, I know curl also has async built in. So PHP already is asynchronous. You can already perfectly do asynchronous programming in PHP today with one of these libraries, and they build on top of what's there and just make it more convenient. So what this RFC does is provide one of these lower level building stones, building bricks that these libraries can build on top of. But when a normal developer says like, we want async PHP, the way I interpret that, at least, is that they say like, we want something like React PHP or MPHP, but just built into the language without having to install another framework that's written in PHP itself. Just have it there natively. That's what we're talking about. So yeah, interesting. I realized this is a pretty long RFC. Oh, what have we gotten into? Anyway, that's my rant. It's not really a big critique on this RFC. I think Jakob probably did great work here. We'll continue reading through it. It's just like, these are my first thoughts. It feels like kind of a bit of not invented here syndrome, combined with the way PHP is developed. It makes it tricky to add huge things, right? So maybe small baby steps seems like a more, what should I call it, like a more reachable goal. So yeah, the proposal is to add a new polling API to PHP core that provides a unified interface to platform-specific polling mechanisms. This API will automatically select the best available backend for the current platform while providing a consistent interface across all systems. I don't think this is a bad goal, by the way. This is good. I wish, yeah. Anyway, supported backends. The implementation will support the following polling backends. So I'm not too familiar enough with stuff like libuv or libevent, but my guess is that we're re-implementing stuff that's already available in these libraries from scratch. And these are like, especially with like these kind of low-level system features, you need to make sure that all operating systems work. It sounds like such a mess to do on your own. Why would you want to do that? The backend will be selected automatically based on platform availability. Users generally should not need to specify a backend. Sure. Handle abstraction. A key innovation in this API is the handle abstraction. IO poll handle is a marker interface that identifies classes representing pollable resources. The interface itself defines no method, which is that's kind of a code smell, but anyway. It serves purely as a type marker that the polling API uses to recognize valid handle types. The actual file descriptor, extraction, and validity checking are performed internally through a C-level operations table, which keeps the Userspace API clean while allowing each handle type to integrate with its underlying resource in the most appropriate way. So what I'm getting from this is that, okay, it will be handled for me, right? The initial implementation provides stream poll handle for stream resources, but the design allows for future implementation. Stream poll handle, socket poll handle, curl poll handle. So these two are not available yet. This design allows the polling API to evolve and support additional resource types without breaking backward compatibility. Restrictions on implementations. The IO poll handle interface can only be implemented by internal classes. Any attempt by userland class. Okay, let's take a look at the API here, because this is what frameworks like React and AMP will be interacting with. So we have our context class, which is quite large. Let's just take a quick bird's eye overview here. We have a constructor where you can pass in a backend, but default is auto. You can add a new handle here that will monitor certain events, I think. Array of event idem cases to watch for. So when these events happen, this handle will be notified, I reckon. And then data additional data, and then we'll get a watcher in return. Then we wait for events on monitored handles. This method blocks until at least one event occurs or the timeout expires. The timeout follows the same convention as stream select. And so this is what I mean when they say you need to build an event loop on top of this, which will be provided by AMP and React, because this is pretty low level, right? You still need to handle these waits yourself, basically. And what if you have multiple contexts that you're waiting for, and you need to be able to orchestrate that in parallel, and that's what the event loop does for you. So a watcher class represents a registered watcher in a poll context. A watcher monitors a handle for specific events and can be modified or removed. So this is the watcher. Okay, so you create a, let's see, you create a context and then you create a watcher within that context, I reckon. And that one will watch for specific events. Maybe? Let's read that again. Represent a registered watcher in a poll context. A watcher monitors a handle for specific events and can be modified or removed. It monitors a handle. So yeah, I reckon that's what it does. And this is the handle class. Wraps a PHP stream resource to make it compatible with the polling API. Okay, that's good. I want to see how it's used. So this is the backend enum. It should be auto on most cases, right? This is the event enum. These are the events that can happen, right? Read, write, error, hang up, read, hang up, one shot, it's triggered, okay? Exceptions are there. Let's scroll through those because I want to see, okay, usage example. This is a basic TCP server. So would be cool to have like a before and after here, actually, but okay, we don't. Let's see if we can make sense of this. So we create a new context with automatic backend selection. Okay, that makes sense. Then we create a socket server. This is just what's already available in PHP, right? So we create a server and then we set it to non-blocking so that we're not just waiting for it all the time. Then we wrap that stream, that created stream. So this was already available in PHP before. Then we wrap it in that new handle class. And then we, let's see, we have our context, which is called poll, just for naming conventions. This is so confusing, but okay. Just name it context, I would say. So we add to our context that handle. We'll listen to read events. And this is some extra metadata. Okay, and so now we're listening to it. And this is our event loop, right? This is what actually orchestrates all of this and what frameworks like React and AMP do for you. So let's see, we return an array of watcher instances that have events. So we don't create these watchers ourselves, I get it. So we wait one, I don't know what one means. Another small tip, if you're just writing code samples, right, use named arguments here. It's so makes it so much easier to know what's going on. Because now we need to scroll back up to our context here. Watcher context to the wait method. Timeout in seconds. And there's also a timeout in microseconds. Okay, got it. Scrolling down again. Okay, so we wait, and we wait a maximum of 1 second before going to, well, in this case, we only have one context, right? But if you would have multiple contexts, then we would be able to switch up and check them one by one. That's what the event loop does. So we get watchers from this call or nothing if nothing happens, and then we'll just continue to loop and loop and loop. And then if we have some watchers, it means that some kind of event has occurred, right? We'll loop over them. We'll get the data from them. There's some metadata here and checks on what kind of event it is. Let's see, then we get the handle from the watcher. Then we instance off check, we get the stream. We create a client, right? Because we're here on the server. Okay, yeah, so we're on the server, we're getting a read event, which means that a client wants to connect, and then we do that. If it's the other way around, if the type here is client, which is coming from here, right? So this loop is handling two kinds of events. Let's see what does the client here do. What does the client do here? So we have we get our handle again. Poll handle, sure, we get the stream. If it has the read event triggered, we'll read from the buffer. Boom, boom, boom. If the buffer is empty, we'll disconnect. Otherwise, we'll have received this, like whatever kind of payload has been sent. I don't think, yeah. And then we write it out to the client. And then if there are some, exceptions or end events being triggered, we'll just clean up perfectly. I kind of wish there was a before example here, how you would do this without this new feature added. And also how you would do it with AMP and React PHP, just for clarity, right? Okay, so yeah, this is our server. And then we have our, let's see, this is where we actually are sending messages, right? So with all of that setup being done, we have this function, send and receive. We can send a message to the server. We can wait for the response. If there's no response in time, then that's a timeout. And then we loop over watchers again, read data, receive data, okay. And then clean up for errors. And here's an example of an event loop here. What AMP or React would implement. And then some more examples, some more examples, some more examples, some more examples. Internal, okay, okay, over here, internal API. In addition to Userspace API, this RFC introduces a new internal polling API available to PHP core and extensions through the PHP poll header. And that's interesting because the RFC mentioned first and foremost, it was about the internal API basically, but we first spent a lot of time on the on the user lens stuff. But it's good to see that like both things get, well, this one gets a little less page real estate, but it's fine. I guess like this doesn't make much sense for me because I'm not an internal developer or extension author, but yeah, this makes it so that extensions can use the same API as well, which is really good, and which was actually one of the main reasons why they added this feature, right? This RFC only adds new functionality and does not modify existing APIs. It introduces a new namespace IO. No major project uses this namespace. There have been found only one active project on GitHub. It uses it as the primary namespace, but it does not use IO poll or any planned IO sub namespaces. There is no conflict. Okay. Really, we need a PHP namespace. I don't get like, oh, these new features are getting added in just the root namespace. And what was it? Let's see. So yeah, another 8.6 feature here is the duration class that lives now in a root time namespace. And then there is also a new direction enum that lives in no namespace at all. Why does, like, how difficult can it be to just introduce a one PHP root namespace that's reserved and that's it? I mean, we're making things so much more complicated than they need to be, I feel. Anyway, I'm ranting again. Future scope. This proposal lays the groundwork for several future enhancements. So socket poll handle, curl poll handle, timer handler, signals, ZTS, FPM, event loop, internal polling. And so I feel like all of these things are great and good work here, interesting. However, I cannot really understand why we're trying to reinvent the wheel. Implementing libuv would have been, I would think, such a great foundation to introduce async into PHP. And we can discuss whether, the node model is the best out there, but it works. So much code has been written on it. And I feel like, let's just try to move forward. So while I think In itself, in isolation, this is a good RFC. It's interesting. It's great that there is a unified API, that it can be used both by userland and by internal and extension code. Really great. But why do we choose to just not do the obvious thing, I would say? I'm not sure about that. I'm going to ask Jakub about it before making this video, and then I'll get back at you right here. So Jakub said a couple of interesting things. The first one is that, the userland implementation was more of a secondary goal as the RFC listed, but then it went into the userland implementation first. So yeah, frameworks like AMP and React, they can hook into it. I'm not sure if they will. If if you've been following along, then definitely write a comment and tell me where I missed something. So yeah, this implementation does scale better than Stream Select, so there might be more incentive for these frameworks to upgrade as well. We'll have to see. When it comes to bundling libuv or not, Jakub mentioned they actually want to look into another library, more modern approach, which is a more performant way to do async I/O. Then they also need compatibility layers on other operating systems. It sounds like there might be something there, like a more modern approach compared to libuv, which is already a bit old, it's been doing great work for years and years and years. And so that might be the way forward for async in PHP. They're actively looking into it. I'm still a little uncertain whether embracing the latest and greatest is really worth it compared to something that's been tried and tested in production for years and years and years, albeit maybe a little bit older and dated, but it works. Yeah, I don't know. I'm super curious to hear your thoughts about it as well. So if you have 5 minutes to spare, go down to the comment section and write down whatever you're thinking. I'm looking forward to reading whatever comes to your mind. So yeah, that's the polling API. Pretty interesting RFC. Definitely makes sense in some cases. I'm still not entirely satisfied yet with the libuv questions, but we'll have to see. What I think you really need to take away from this RFC is that it's pretty low level and that it's not going to make PHP more async than it was before. They are looking into doing that, but it's kind of separate work from this one. So yeah, thanks for watching and thanks for voicing your thoughts in the comments, and then I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.